We're just so happy to have East Coast Pools with us this morning. Take it away, Tom.
Welcome, everyone. So, what we're going to go over today is basically comparing apples to apples and just going over maybe a couple things that may help you along the way to get solid proposals from everyone. So, basically, where we'll start on the introduction, let me scroll down through here. Basically, the importance of transparency and trust, the cost of unclear expectations, and then case study a $50,000 mistake for a murky bid. Mostly, what does apples to apples really mean? And then the must-have components in every pool project bid. So what I've done, I changed it up a little bit. I did a couple little more things on here than on the screen now. But the scope of work or the project requirements is probably the biggest thing that should probably be based on everyone's request for proposals from like a contractor, either for new construction or a remodel. And really, you need to get into details on the project requirements for every job. Basically, when someone comes out to give you an estimate, if you have a lot of specifications based out already in your project requirements, then everyone's bids would become really close together, at least apples to apples wise. And then that would help you pick who you wanted to actually use for the construction of the project. A lot of things to look forward to is making sure that everyone is doing the same type of work and they're all using basically the same materials so that someone's not trying to substitute something that's not like materials. So it's best if you yourself have in your project requirements, basically in your scope area, like what material you would like to see used, which is a little bit difficult if you don't know all the materials. But a lot of the times, like a Diamond Bright or a Florida Stucco, one of those companies are all relatively the same. You just don't want someone coming in and using an inferior product. Also, the tile and basic requirements prep. You want to make sure everyone's removing old tiles. You don't want anyone repeating the old tile. And I've come out and seen a lot of jobs out there where they've tiled right over the existing tile. It's not what you want to see done, but you have to have that in your scope there and your project requirements so that everyone knows this is how we want it done. This is our standard for our jobs. Also, you want to confirm and see if how much of the labor breakdown is not really, it's not very easily to break down how much labor can be broke down on each job, but you can find out if they actually are doing the labor in-house. So have you hired just a sub that subs the entire job out and maybe they have one superintendent for 15 jobs they have going on? Or did you actually hire a company that actually has in-house employees? And that's what you're looking for is in-house employees that actually come to your site so that you have workers from their shop coming to your site every day. That way you can ask questions instead of seeing a sub that's there just for one scope and then another sub and then another sub and another sub and so on. Or if you can find in-house companies that do all the work in-house, then at least you can ask questions to the people that are there working. Gives you a little more transparency. That also falls along timelines and milestones. Your timeline will get a lot more efficient if you can find a company that's not subbing the entire project out and then using that to say that they're behind because their subs didn't show. That becomes a big thing. Also, permitting responsibilities. Make sure you're hiring a licensed contractor that can actually pull the permit for the job and that handles all the stuff with the health departments. And then payment schedules. You don't want to give everyone all the money up front. Make sure it's based on maybe 3 or 4 draws upon completion besides the deposit. You want to break it down so that you're not giving them all the money up front. And then we move on to the next slide, beneath the surface, hidden costs and common emissions. Change orders, what's typically excluded. Change orders can be really tricky. Most of the time, though, if you have your project requirements already laid out pretty well, then you can typically dodge a lot of the change orders. That way, you already know what's happening now. If something, they come to the job and they drain the pool and they find some crackings that no one's seen, then yes, you're going to get hit with a change order for that particular spot. But normally, change orders will be avoided if you have a very good project requirements laid out already for whoever comes to look at your job. Site-specific adjustments, grading, drainage, utilities. Those are all big for new construction. So when you have someone coming in and building a new pool for you, those grading and drainage and utility things come very big on those spots, but not more for remodels. Most of the time, if you're looking for, most of you guys will be looking to do remodels. That stuff doesn't really come into anything going on with you. But the permits, inspections, and the HOA review fees, permits and inspections are big. Every town has its own permitting wire requirements. So it's best to look up for your actual area on what they require. Some don't require permits for resurface, and other areas do. It just depends on your particular counties or cities. But every area requires a health department permit. You have to contact the health department to let them know that you're doing anything that to the pool itself. And that requires you to bring that pool back up to the new codes. So if it's non-skid tiles, depth markers, stuff like that, that's going to have to be brought up to the new codes. And then long-term costs, warranties, maintenance, and service. You want to make sure that you have some sort of workmanship warranty with the company that you're using, which is also a good thing to try to find. I wouldn't get a bid from anyone that didn't have at least 5 years experience in the pool industry, and especially remodels, 5 years minimum experience in remodels. So maybe that'll cut down on a lot of the problems that you could have if you find good contractors that have been doing it already. So that will limit the fly by night guys or some of the guys that don't really know what they're doing yet and they're just trying to get started. That'll help out on the warranty aspect as well. So then we move into filter in the right, how to evaluate bids. Um, the bid comparison worksheet is a good start. The template provided, it's down there in the list. I'm gonna actually add to that a little bit as I'm gonna go along. This is my first time ever doing this, so I'm just trying to learn it myself. But I have a standard sheet that I can actually share with everyone so that you guys can all kind of use it a little bit. It's going to be a little different for everyone, but it'll at least get you started on maybe your project requirements, background info, service standards, insurance requirements. That's one of the biggest ones that I see going against a lot of other people is you need to make sure everyone has workers' comp, general liability, and vehicle insurance on any vehicle that comes on the property. Especially if they have all subs, you want every subcontractor to have workers' comp, sure, general liability, vehicle insurance, so that when they're coming on your properties, in case something happens or someone gets hurt, or if a car hits a wall running around one of the tight corners or something, they're all that you guys are covered. And then try to find a few references would help. Get a couple references from a couple other condos or commercial pools that they've done. And then red flags to watch out for. A lot of companies that don't have workman's comp. That's definitely one of the biggest red flags. Another red flag is using a company that doesn't actually have a license to do the job, so that they're using another company's license to actually pull the permit. That's another red flag. Another red flag is not having vehicles show up with no lettering of their company on them. That is a sign that they're using all subcontractors. You should see logoed vehicles at least when they show up to do work at your place. That goes along with vetting credentials and reviews. Trying to make sure that you're hiring the right company. So that's what you want to get a couple good references help for that. And then questions to ask each vendor. A lot of the times when it comes to that, you just want to vet them and make sure that they can handle taking on the job at the time and make sure that it's going to be in your time frame. And then a lot of the stuff is you want to make sure that all necessary repairs are going to be done in your time frame and you don't have someone come in there and says they can start in a month and really they can't start in 3 months, but they tell you 1 month. They come and do a little bit of work and don't show back up for a month or two because they were so far behind that they just pretty much lied to you in the beginning just so they could get the job. And then you're stuck with your pull down for 3 to 4 months, which only should have been a 3 to 4 week job in the beginning. And then we go to splash test, a guided walkthrough of real bids, side by side analysis of sample proposals, interactive exercise, and then spot the differences. That goes to like red flags, also vague scope of work, no material listed, no timelines, warranties not in writing. You want to get all those spotted out on there just so that you have all the same side by side analysis. And then you want to request written detailed scopes, ask for brands and models of all the materials that are being used, ask for phase-based scheduling, and request written warranty terms, especially in the contracts that you get from them. You want to see what kind of warranty they're going to offer, what kind of workmanship, finish warranty, tile warranties, stuff like that. Another good thing to do is make sure when you're getting a new company to come in and do work for you that they're actually going to come out there and do some of the startup on the pool and get the pool back up and running. So that way that they check the chemicals in the very beginning to make sure that it's all up to code, especially when you're going to have the health department come out and recheck the pool because they're going to want to see that the balance is perfect so that they're relying only on themselves to get the pool back up and running. It also helps the finish so that makes sure the pH is maintained properly in the very beginning of the job. And then we go into communicating expectations to vendors, creating a big request template. That is basically what I was talking about in the very beginning. A request for proposals would be a nice thing to start with. And then that's where we creating a big request template would be helpful. And then how to ensure each bid includes the same details. That's part of the template. And then managing expectations with homeowners and boards. Move on. Then we go to final takeaways and resources, summary checklist for comparing pool bids, and then links to the DPPR resources and FSPA guidelines. So where we also can go make sure on the insurance too as well. is that everyone is carrying pop insurance for your pools that anyone's doing any work on. And then let's see, we can go about. Didn't take as long as I figured, only 20 minutes. We can go into maybe some of the types of pools that you can get into for remodels, what you might see on there. Some of the requests for proposals and requirements, following scope of supply by supplier, like this is what I would have in my project requirements. A, where are they draining the pool to? Who's draining the pool? Make sure they are, hopefully, and not you guys. That's a big one. And then if you're doing any tile work there, make sure they're tearing off all the tile, steps, water line tile, cap tile around the scum gutter. A lot of the companies, you won't even realize how many do it. They will tile right over the existing tile, and you wouldn't even know if you didn't catch it. If you weren't there that exact day when they did it, they had already did it, tiled right over the existing tile. A lot of the times now for scum gutters, if you have a scum gutter pool, that now requires a non-skid tile to be all the way around. And what I've found now, especially on a lot of the older pools that are 10 plus years old, it's best if you just have in your project requirements that everyone chips off the entire scum gutter, old plaster, so that you get down to the old pool shell. This will stop you from having to use scum gutter extensions. Scum gutter extensions are just adding another possible leak because you're taking a small little piece of plastic and putting it on top of the scum gutter that's already there. And that just promotes more leaks. So if you just require them all to remove the finish coat that was on there before, then you don't have to use a riser anymore. And it just makes for a better job. Less problems in the long run, less leaks around the scum gutters because they're notorious for leaking. And then move on to the stairs. Any stairs now, all stairs have to have non-skid tile on top. Depth markers as well as all no dive signs on top of the pool now have to be non-skid. A tile break if it's required. You need to make sure that somewhere in there the existing service to be checked for hollow spots and leaks so they're sounding out the pool, making sure they're not leaving a hollow spot when they're leaving the old pool finish in there and just going right over it. That can just become more problems down the road. So you want to make sure that somewhere in there you're telling them that you want them to sound out the pool. And then let's see. You want to make sure that they're waterproofing around all fittings that are in the pool, all the jets, if there's floor returns, most pools have floor returns, wall returns, all the lighting, that they're chipping around all the lighting areas and making sure that they waterproof all those areas real well. And then they're at there also acid washing the old finish to get it really clean. And then finally applying a good bonding agent for the new finish to go to. That brings up another thing is you want to find out who's actually installing the pool finish, whether they're doing the finishing themselves in-house or if they're subbing it out and who they're actually subbing the pool finish out to so that you can also familiarize yourself with who that subcontractor is going to be. And then that would go into making sure that they replace the new main drain cover and collar in the pools and spas. That's mandated by the state. Those covers are only good for 5 years. Most pools, somewhere around the 7 year mark is about where most pools are remodeled at. 7 to 10 years, that's about the life expectancy of a pool finish. And then after the pool's filled back up, that they are rebalancing the water. And then after they do that, they probably want to have them come check the pool a couple times, not for months on end, but at least for a week to make sure that the pool finish looks well so that they become responsible for the startup of the pool and that they make the pool look well before they leave. So if they just don't start the pools up and you guys get left with just they filled it up and then they want you to have your either your guy that's in house or your pool service come in and take over the pool. And then that's where a lot of the times they can blame the pool guy didn't start the pool up right or so on like that. So it's best if you can get them to start the pool up and get the pool balanced correctly. So then that stops a lot of the problems that I've seen over the years. Um, Also, service standard. Work performed at the property shall be completed in the first class manner, utilizing modern equipment and professional employees. That's like one of the biggest things. Provide any specific property conditions needed prior to start of work, like access, furniture needing to be removed, stuff like that. Um, Another thing right in there, please confirm if subcontractors are used. Identify your warranties on materials and labor. Let's see. Emergency contact information would be nice. Liabilities and other terms, any associated fixtures, personal property damage by this vendor is to be repaired at vendor's cost. And that's about it with that. Then you can have in there insurance requirements. The supplier shall provide the following insurance: general liability, vehicle insurance, workers' compensations per state of Florida. And then suppliers shall provide an insurance certificate naming your particular association as the additionally insured on the primary non-contributory basis of commercial general liability prior to services being performed. That's basically stating that you're on the additional assured on their insurance policy. Let's see. Then you go to minimum qualifications. The supplier shall have the following minimum qualifications: shall be licensed to do business in the state of Florida. Also would put in there that they are a licensed contractor in the state of Florida. So they're not just holding and just a occupational license. I wouldn't really hire anyone unless they were a state contractor for swimming pool industry. And then shall 5 years experience with pool resurfacing in your area. Would be nice if you could find them that they've done work in your own county or cities. And then 3 references would be nice to have for sure. And then that would get you into like where to send the emails for the proposals and stuff like that. Pricing. If you have anything in there you want to separate, that's where they would ask like separate pricing for like if you wanted a bunch of lights replaced or some other things outside of the normal scope that you would have for everyone to go off of. And it's usually about a 3 page document, which I can connect in there. I don't know how I can actually upload it, but I'll have it where everyone could have this sample for your, that you could use to request for bids for your remodels. And then let's see. Guess
Tom, do you
that.
want to bring this slide down? I think that there's a quiz
Oh,
if we're ready for that.
yeah, that's what I was headed to now.
Okay,
I was trying to get upload this so that everyone can see it, but I don't know how to do that. I'm not good at that.
No worries. So, everyone, what we will do is we will make sure to add a link in the newsletter that goes out to everyone next, which will have the video and all the slide decks so that you can utilize that example. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah. All right. All right, so we can go into let's go over 10 questions together and see how you do on this final exam here. Let me pull
And
that up.
before we do this, do you mind? I've got some questions that I'd like to get you
Sure.
to answer for me. Okay, so how many hours should the filtration system run, and what is comfortable temperature that is recommended for code?
Swimming pools, they like to see 85 and 104 max for the hot tubs. And then run times, majority of the times it's best to leave the pool running 24 hours. But there is filtration codes for time frames of how long the pool can run. Basically, 3 hours before the pool kicks on, that's before the pool opening is, that's when the pool needs to start. And then 3 hours after closing, that's when the pool can shut off. So those are the time frames that you can run it. But it's best to just leave it running 24 hours.
I have
Better,
a, go ahead, I'm sorry.
it's just better. It stays cleaner that way if you don't let it shut down at night.
We have a comment here, a Cam, I believe, provided. In my complex, I took over managing a contract that a previous board put into place. They didn't allow for chipping off numerous plaster layers or putting in a new pool beam. This ended up causing a very expensive change order. Any comments on that, Tom?
Yeah, because they didn't have them talk about chipping. That's probably what she's talking about is chipping off the scum gutter, it sounds like to me. And then they came there and said all of a sudden, all this needs to be removed and chipped off, and that's where they hit her with a bigger fee. That's what it
So,
sounds like to me.
so note that for when you're remodeling. Lindsay, I know you had some questions that came through on your side.
Sure. So when reviewing bids, what red flags tend to be the most easily overlooked by CAMs and board members? The ones that usually lead to, surprises during construction, which,
The biggest surprise that I've found so far, like, because I also go to a lot of reviews where people are trying to actually do like suits against pool builders. The biggest thing is that they come in, they tell them that they're going to do this, and they don't. And they end up, a lot of the times, believe it or not, a lot of the problems have been tile over tile. They literally will put the tile right over the old tile. It's unbelievable. And then the big things are also hidden the chipping. A lot of the chipping off of the old plaster on that scum gutter, they'll use that. That's like one of the biggest things too. They'll use that as to get a change order out of you. And they usually like to get another 4 grand out of that, which in the grand scheme of things, if they did it in the beginning, it's only going to cost you $700, $800 more.
good to know.
Wow. Yeah, really good to know.
And then in your experience, like what long-term ownership costs are most important to include in the evaluation process? Like what are some things that you would, go a certain direction instead of another, when bidding out either a new pool project or a renovation?
What do you mean, like comfortable, like feeling comfortable with someone doing business
Well,
with?
like, salt water versus chlorine, where are you going to have the most, what are a couple things to consider that would be price saving or cost saving for the
Hmm.
duration up until the next, renovation that, one item would be better than another?
Oh, gotcha. Salt systems nowadays, they're popular if the pool is under 20,000 gallons. If the pool is above 20,000 gallons, it's really not worth the money because even having a salt system on a pool, you still have to have an entire chlorine system there. So you're buying a whole chlorine system, the tanks, the chlorine, the feeders, and everything. And then now you're also buying a salt system there as well because you have to have a backup for a commercial pool. It has to have a backup system.
Okay.
So that backup system's chlorine. So if it's under 20,000 gallons, it's worth it. If it's over 20,000 gallons, I really don't see all the need for a salt system because the salt system really still produces chlorine. It just
Right.
produces chlorine gas. So it's just a little bit cleaner.
Hey, we got some more questions coming in here, Tom. At maybe this as of July 2023, pull pumps must be a cycle motors. Is that correct?
Oh, variable speed, yeah.
Variable speed. Okay, you want to highlight that for you want to just say that again?
Yeah, for that's the code in 2023 started where all pumps needed to be variable speed. Frequency drives basically is what they are for all pools, for all commercial
And
pools. Yeah.
and just the reason for that, for anyone that's just not really familiar with all that.
Well, because they were just putting on the biggest pumps they could find, and those were just driving up the electric bills, especially them big 5 horsepower pumps. So what they've gone now to is this is a big thing that you have to actually pull permits for, because then you have to get an engineer involved to figure out the flow of the pool, and then that will decide what size pump is put for that pool and also the settings for the pool, like what speed they want that pump to run so it gets the most efficiency. It's a lot about efficiency, making them a lot more efficient.
Good. Okay. Every 5 years, the license needs to be renewed, correct? Question mark.
I think you have to renew your license for like the HOA for the condo associations or
It came
for
through as a question, so I'm not sure, but yes, I'm assuming that would be what they're asking.
I think you have to renew a pool for the health department. I think that has to be redone every year.
Yeah,
But
that's
Every
it
they
could
come
be
and do the inspection and they sent you the certificate of,
occupancy, yeah.
yeah.
But it could
Okay.
also, they might be talking about, I talked about 5 years and it could have been the main drain covers. Some of the main drain covers are actually only good for 5 years, and that could be what they're talking about there.
Can you use a VFD pump to reduce power consumption overnight? I just want to keep the water circulating.
Yeah, you can actually, if you had a variable frequency drive, variable speed pump there, yeah, you could slow the pump down to 20, 30% of what you're doing now just to keep it circulating at nighttime.
A comment, salt water can be more expensive and equipment has less lifespan than non-salt. Thank you for the comment. Any other questions before we dive into the exam? This is your opportunity to ask a industry leader about your commercial pool and remodeling and any of your pump room questions. We'll go into the exam, and if you have more, just go ahead and put them in chat, and we'll get Tom before he leaves us. Okay, let's go over the final exam, Tom. If you just want to ask the question, everybody will just put their answers into the chat, and then we'll see how well they have been paying attention.
All right, question one. What is the primary risk of unclear pool project bids? A, faster project completion. B, increased transparency. C, costly mistakes and delays. Or D, better vendor relationships.
Okay, we've got a flurry of C's coming in.
Should I give him a second or move on?
You can move on.
Should I pass the answer or go to the
No,
answer?
let's see the answer to make sure that we're right. There
And
we
the
go.
answer is C, costly mistakes and delays.
Okay, great.
And we go on to question two. Which of the following is not a must-have in every pool project bid? Scope of work, detailed materials list, vendor's favorite color, or payment schedule.
Okay, so we've got a flurry of C's, a few D's.
All right. The answer is vendor's favorite color. It's not a must-have. Question number three.
As you can see, we make these questions pretty easy.
What are the hidden leaks in pool project bids referred to? A, water seepage. B, hidden costs or omissions. C, vendor communication. Or D, pool design differences.
Okay, and we got a bunch of B's.
B is the correct answer, hidden cost or omissions. Let's see, go to question four. What is the purpose of comparing bids apples to apples? A, ensure bids have the same details for fair comparison. B, compare different project types. C, focus only on the lowest price. Or D, skip warranty details.
We got everyone saying A. It's unanimous.
And A is the correct answer.
There's some fast
Question
readers
B.
in this group. They read it real quick. I'm pretty shocked by it, actually. Sorry.
Well, it's taken me forever to read it. Which factors can significantly change cost depending on the property site? A, pool color, B, landscaping preferences, C, grading and drainage issues, or D, size of HOA board.
Unanimously C.
C is correct, grading and drainage issues. Question 6. Why is a bid comparison worksheet helpful? A, it makes projects more expensive. B, it simplifies evaluation bids objectively. C, it eliminates the need for vendor meetings. Or D, it guarantees project approval.
And we've got unanimously B.
B is correct. It simplifies evaluating bids objectively. Let's see. Question 7. Which of the following is a red flag in a pool bid? A, clear warranty terms. B, detailed timeline. C, missing permit details. Or D, transparent material list. And
Okay, we've
the
got a bunch of
answer.
C's coming in. C's. C.
C is correct. Missing permit details. Question number 8. What should cams and boards do when requesting bids from vendors? A, leave requirements vague. B, ensure all vendors include the same detail. C, only ask for prices. D, skip communication.
We got all B's coming in.
B is correct. Ensure all vendors include the same details. Question number 9. What is the example of long-term cost often overlooked in bids? A, change orders. B, maintenance and service agreements. C, drainage issue. Or D, HOA review fees.
We got B's, we got C's, we got A. That's kind of all over.
Answer is B, maintenance and service agreements. It's a long-term cost. That's what gets you. Long-term cost often overlooked.
That's what tricked you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Question number 10. Why is clear communication with vendors important? It prevents misalignment expectations. It speeds up payment schedules. C, it reduces permit requirements. Or D, it eliminates warranties.
Okay, all A is unanimous over here.
A is correct. It prevents misalignment expectations.
Okay.
And
Okay,
that,
everyone. I am going to, do you have anything else, Tom?
no, that's all I have.
Okay, let me put their contact information into the chat. If anyone wants to jump in here, we just have a few more minutes before we'll pop off if you want to ask Tom any more questions. Also, Tom and his team's service areas, excuse me, Tom, they're Volusia, they're Flagler. You have a second location that you just opened in St. Augustine. You do work in Jacksonville, surrounding areas. Do you also do consulting across the state?
I could, yeah. If you needed some help, yeah, we could, yeah.
Yeah, with 3 decades in the pool industry and, knowing all sides of commercial builds and remodeling, Tom is a huge asset and contact to keep in your, what Lindsay says, your toolbox. And Tom, can you just briefly, because I didn't know this, and I feel like I know the services pretty well, how are you involved when it comes to lawsuits against builders?
For the I go and have to check on jobs and like they'll basically the attorneys will send out a request that I go and look at them for people. So I know a
And
couple big attorneys.
what kind of, so is there some kind of designation that you have because of that? Is that something that you had to get a certification for, or is it just because you have the 30 years in the industry and you're known around town to be able to say this is what went well, this is what it was wrong?
Yeah, it's mostly because I deal with some of the bigger firms that do a lot of the construction, and then that's when they call me in. just to get an outline, it just depends on what kind of contract you have, whether you're going to have that type of lawsuit or just want a second opinion, really. Sometimes it's just a second opinion on a job going on. And I just
Yeah.
go in, check it out, tell them what I feel is going on so that they can either A, feel more comfortable with the projects that's going on, or B, that let's change it before we get too far along.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay, everyone. You're getting a lot of thank yous in here, Tom. We appreciate you. Thank you for your first one. Done and done. We'll be excited for more to come from East Coast Pools and Spas. If you want to pop out, we don't need you anymore, but we can
Okay,
continue on and let everybody know what they need to do. Thank you, Tom.
thanks.